The Panthers, Browns, and Texans are not scheduled to pick in the first round of the 2024 NFL Draft. So what is their outlook entering the end of the month? We're exploring that today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who make Locked On NFL Scouting your first listen every single day, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started.
Joe, just dropped my phone. Off to a bad start.
Yeah.
I was trying to figure out when my new office chair is coming.
Oh, hopefully today?
It says between the 10th and the 12th, and last night it was in Texas, so it won't be here today.
Oh.
I mean, maybe it will be. I don't know. I don't want to underrate Amazon's ability to travel and ship, but probably not feeling real good about today.
Not fun assembling office chairs. I just did that myself a couple months ago.
But it was worth it. I could see you get a nice high back chair there behind you. We're peeking out over your shoulder.
You saw what happened to my last chair, Kyle Crabbs.
I did. Yeah.
Took a digger. Had to be replaced. So
while you were in it.
While I was in it. The only
fact about that.
I just wish I was recording a podcast so everybody could see me just collapsing back.
Disappear out of the frame.
Yeah. My wife enjoyed it, but
I have a real low, I can freely swing my arms. That's how low the back is on my chair. It's almost more like a stool. It's not very comfortable. So
somebody sits in his office chair all day, man. It's a great investment. We're all excited.
Getting a gamer chair. I didn't realize there was such a stark difference between gaming chairs and office chairs.
Yeah.
But the ergonomics of the gaming chair, I can just be leaning back and you ever see that South Park episode where they do the World of Warcraft?
No, I didn't.
No. They always cut to this guy who's the guy who's playing against them in World of Warcraft. He's the bad guy of the episode or whatever. And he's some middle-aged guy, and he's just in this dimly lit room, and he's got his chair all the way back, and he never moves. He never evokes any emotion, but he just has the mouse out in front of him, and he's just click, 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 and it's real intense, the cuts to him. And that's going to be me doing the podcast.
Wow. We have a lot to look forward to.
Well, I can't wait because I'm tired of this stool, but we can also hardly wait. Fans of the Panthers, Texans, and Browns can hardly wait for their teams to come on the clock, but they're going to have an extra 24 hours longer than everybody else because they don't have first-round picks as things are currently scheduled for the 2024 NFL Draft.
We've both been part of NFL drafts where our team doesn't pick in the first round, and what sucks about that is the entire build-up to the draft, you're completely overlooked. Nobody talks about you. You see mock drafts. There's no second round, right? So here we are today.
Here we are.
To show you love. We're going to talk about your draft outlook for the Panthers, Texans, and Browns. And I guess we'll start with the Carolina Panthers. And I felt like we talked about the Panthers so much for so long, but over the last month and a half, they have not been a relevant part of our conversations. But they don't have their first round pick. They sent that away as part of their move up for Bryce Young. But they do have pick 33, so the highest pick in the second round.
They also have the second highest pick of teams not picking in the first round.
39.
Yeah.
Yeah, 65, 101, 141, 142, 240. So a lot of opportunity for Dan Morgan in his first draft as the general manager of the Carolina Panthers to find some help. And so, Kyle, as you think about Carolina entering this draft, what they have, what they don't, where does your mind go?
So I think one of the things that I find some encouragement with is when you consider where Carolina has spent this offseason, the interior offensive line, right? You think about the draft, there's more tackle talent that's available, and Carolina's probably set at tackle when you consider Taylor Moton, Ike Ekwonu, and then they brought in Josh Nijman as a potential swing tackle type. So the offensive line should be relatively set. It's perimeter stuff. It's corner. It's wide receiver. The trade of Dante Jackson. They acquired Deontay Johnson, but and then in the front seven, all the investments with Ashawn Robinson and Jadeveon Clowney and DJ Wanham and Josie Jewell. Like, you go down the list, they've invested a ton in the front seven. So I think about where you expect the runs to happen, and then you have 2 picks in the top 40, still just between 33 and 40. You should get a pretty dynamic wide receiver if you want to address that need. A player who can take meaningful snaps for you. Just make sure he's stylistically the right kind of receiver. And then you also have a chance probably to get a good corner when you consider, when does the corner run start here? How deep does the corner run go? Does it get into guys like Ennis Rakestraw or not? Probably not. So like that, there's options for Carolina if their objective is we want to fill out this roster as much as possible to make the most of these 2 picks that they have in the early second round.
I think Dan Morgan's done a pretty good job of finding some meaningful veteran talent in a situation where they weren't necessarily loaded with cap space. Now there's some tough moves along the way to get there, but this roster looks a lot better right now than it did last season. And that's a lot. That says a lot because they don't have Brian Burns on this roster. So I think he's done a good job in elevating the floor of this football team, especially like you mentioned, investing in the trenches in a meaningful way, particularly those guards, Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt, man. Like, I think they used 7 different left guards and 6 different right guards last year. And that was a major disservice to Bryce Young, who, like, you think about the interior offensive line and the depth of the pocket and his skill set, like, imperative for that to be correct. And it just wasn't. So I like a lot of what they did. I think it's going to give Bryce Young a whole lot more of an opportunity to showcase himself. But I do think wide receiver stands out to me as a need. And I think that works out really well for them at pick 33 or 39 because of the strength of this class. And I mean, I have 4 first-round grades on wide receivers, and I have 12 day 2 grades. That's 16 total. Yeah, you're gonna have options, very good options.
Yeah.
To add to this mix. And now I think what I like about the idea of adding a receiver to this mix is, of course, Adam Thielen had good rapport with Bryce Young last year, but you did add a veteran in Deontay Johnson. So you're not asking this rookie receiver to come in and be this huge high volume piece of your offense, which I think sets him up for success and also Bryce Young at the same time.
I think that's a great point. If I were to point out a third need for Carolina, I think a third pass rusher. I know DJ Johnson's a player that they invested in last year in the draft, but Clowney and Wanham is the top 2 guys on the edge. And I think day 2 is another spot where you'll see some likable guys. You could have somebody who falls into your lap with one of those early 2 picks. Like that, I think if they come away with a combo of a wide receiver, a corner, and an edge rusher, they should feel really good. And those are all premium positions. And that should complement very well, I think, my favorite stat, Joe, for Carolina in their offseason. They committed, and it's not fully guaranteed, but regardless, the total value of the contracts, $250 million to Derrick Brown, Robert Hunt, and Damian Lewis.
That's the most money ever committed, pound for pound, for 3 players, right? I mean,
right? It has to be.
Has to be. I'm sure that's verifiable. There's no doubt about it. That is fun. I didn't connect those dots, but interesting nugget for sure. I guess on your edge rusher point, pour one out for K'Lavon Chaisson. Yeah, he's coming to Carolina. It's a new opportunity. I think schematically it might actually be a good spot for him, but I've already taken my L on K'Lavon Chaisson as a
you and me both. We were both fans. The light bulb having not come on to this stage.
Right.
It's probably not looking.
Yeah. Maybe this will be the spot. Jairo Avero, make us smart. We need you. You're our last chance. All right, so that's Carolina Panthers. The floor has been elevated. They still have, like we mentioned, 33, 39, 65, 101. So there's plenty to be excited about on draft day. Make sure you're checking out Julian Council, Locked On Panthers. He's got you covered before, during, and after the 2024 NFL Draft. We're shifting our attention to the Houston Texans, busy offseason for them. No first-round pick. What does it all look like? We're exploring that in just a moment, so be sure to stick with us. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball is in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. You can bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all in an app that is safe, secure, and super easy to use. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Do you think Demeco Ryans didn't like his defensive line group last year, or what?
Loud and clear, sir.
Between
looking group,
Daniil Hunter and Danico Autry and Fali Fatukasi, Tim Settle, Mario Edwards. Probably 70% of that group's going to be different than what it was last year.
Right. Even like Derek Barnett is a guy that got like later in the season.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy, the amount of turnover there. So like Will Anderson, and that's it. Everything else is new for this defensive line rotation. I mean, even like they made choices when you say we're not going to bring back Gennard and we're going to give the money to Hunter. You wanted to swap that out. Mm-hmm. Even like the Malik Collins situation and kind of bringing in some different bodies. They've retooled that to go with, of course, probably a new leader for that defense in the middle there, and Azeez Al-Shaair, who Demeco Ryans had for a couple of seasons in San Francisco. So there's some familiarity there. He kind of established himself last year with Tennessee. They've redone that front seven in a lot of different ways.
Would you be surprised if they still went defensive line early in the draft, though?
No, because I don't think much of Tim Settle. And I think Mario Edwards is like tweener, fine rotational piece. But, for as much as I like Autry, older player, I think that there could be some real value. Right now, Texans are picking 42, 59, 86, 123, 127, and they have a bunch of picks after that. But at 42, you could be staring at Chris Jenkins out of Michigan, Michael Hall out of Iowa State. I know some people like Braden Fisk out of Florida State. I think there could be a good marriage of an upgradable spot and a really good prospect that fits that area.
Because you feel pretty good about what you have offensively, just about everywhere, courtesy of the Stefon Diggs trade, right? And acquiring Joe Mixon. They have brought back all their other key pieces. They're going to be healthier on the offensive line than what they were last year, because it felt like every other week for the first month of training camp, they lost a guy.
Yeah, they got good depth too there.
Because they kept swinging at it, right? And credit to them. A guy went down, they went out and got another guy.
Yep. And
they did that like 3 times. I know corner's kind of the popular spot for Houston. There's still a couple vet guys out there that I think could make some sense for them as they kind of push their chips in and get real aggressive. But as I just kind of look at the depth chart, in spite of the infusion of talent on the defensive line, especially when you consider Demeco Ryans and what they did in San Francisco and the amount of depth that they had there, it would not surprise me at all if instead of corner, who I think everybody associates, mock him a corner, wouldn't be surprised if it's a defensive tackle.
I think defensive tackle, corner absolutely makes sense with those early picks. How do you feel about this running back situation? I don't know that an early pick would make sense for them. Kyle is shaking his head quickly, but like between Joe Mixon, who I feel like has not been awesome the last couple of years in Cincy, Damian Pierce, who had all of the hype early in his it was a wee-woo. Okay.
We have a report from Adam Schefter on the season opener.
Okay.
The Philadelphia Eagles, or I guess this is the day after. So this is the second game, is a standalone on Friday.
In Brazil, is that what this is going to be?
Yes.
Who are they playing?
The Packers.
So Packers, Eagles in Brazil on Friday.
Friday, September 6th.
I'll watch it. What time's it at?
We will be there.
What time's it?
What's that mean? We'll be there no matter what. The time. There's no time on the tweet.
Okay. You never know. He's game in Brazil. I mean, was that what you said, Brazil? That can't be too different then. It's just
the same hemisphere as us.
same
So
down there, brother. We're getting into geography and time zones could be getting a little dangerous, but all right. So we're going to get the Chiefs are going to host somebody. And then, wow, we can go on a big side tangent.
Eagles, Packers.
Who are the Chiefs' opponents?
Home opponents?
Here, yeah. So here they are. The Chiefs' home opponents for 2024. Bengals, Texans, Saints, Bucks, Ravens, Chargers, Broncos, Raiders.
You know what? Give me the Texans. We'll tie it back to the show.
Yeah, let's watch the Texans. I mean, that was
Texans, Chiefs.
The playoff game we didn't get to see this past year, right?
That's right. Divisional round game we didn't get.
Yeah. Okay. So there we go. We've solved the first 2 games of the season. Back to Texas. I was trying to get to this running back point. Dameon Pierce, for all the hype as a rookie, he gets outplayed by Devin Singletary. Low key, a little bit of a need here.
Yes, I think so. But they reworked Mixon's contract, so there's still a.
As a dynasty owner of Joe Mixon, I couldn't be more excited. But in the real football world, I know that this scheme, right? I mean, like, I get excited and nervous at the same time about this pair.
So let's go out and get a pass catching type back, and I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, when you like
in the grand scheme of things. What's
that? Mid-round guy. You got a mid-round guy you like? I know you've done a little bit of work on these running backs.
Yeah, they're all mid-round guys this year. It's not a great class. Go Jalen Wright from Tennessee.
What about the Texas running back? Like, this makes sense to me as a team, right? He's coming off an injury, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, he's got an ACL. Had an ACL.
A red shirt year. Come on, maybe.
How about Will Shipley?
Aha. The pride of my alma mater, Weddington High School. Yes.
I would like Will Shipley as a compliment in Houston's backfield quite a bit.
So there we go. So corner, defensive tackle, running back. Man, they have so many receivers, dude. So many receivers. Now, Diggs only on a 1-year deal, which makes that interesting. But they still have John Mechie as a recent second-round pick.
The more intel we've gotten on that deal and the subsequent moves, the less I've liked it for them. But
could be one of the great lose-lose trades in the history of the NFL.
Right. Feels good to know that you and our teams have given CJ Stroud 2 of his biggest staples on the offensive side of the ball between Laramie Tunsil and Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, we're here to help.
Low-key impressive, though, when you consider those acquisitions and then Shaq Mason. And then what they last year got more depth with trades and obviously the wheeling and dealing to get Will Anderson and CJ Stroud. The assembly of that roster, I think, is kind of a fun one to dig into as far as all of the different ways in which they've been able to acquire some talent.
Has there ever been a year where the previous year the teams that picked 1 and 2 in the draft don't pick at all in the first round the following year?
Yeah, the 2023-2024 year.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying, has it happened before?
It has now. That's all that matters.
Right. All right. So we have one more team, the Cleveland Browns, not picking in the first round. We're going to break down those dynamics here in just a moment. So be sure to stick with us.
So the Browns are still paying their price for the acquisition of quarterback Deshaun Watson. No first-round pick for that football team again this year. Still finding other ways to stay busy this offseason. In spite of the lack of first-round pick, they are spending cash at an unprecedented rate. Between last year and this year, the Browns are league leaders in spending cash. I believe their cash total for 2024 is $50 million plus, more than any team total the last 3 seasons combined. Jerry Jeudy acquisition, like the fact that they brought in Jameis Winston as a backup to Deshaun Watson. I think that could really be a nice acquisition if Watson gets banged up again this year after obviously, he's still looking to totally find his footing since the 2020 season, I think was the last time we saw a full season of Deshaun Watson for a litany of reasons. But this defense is electric, right? When you think about Jim Schwartz, the defensive front, bringing back Zadarius Smith as well. See a couple spots we could probably afford to add some talent, but they're currently scheduled to pick win, Joe.
54-85, then 156-206.
Okay,
so we are not brimming with capital here.
We got two opportunities.
Yep.
Add talent.
I got to have a little sidebar here, talking about the Cleveland Browns and first round picks. So a couple of things here. First of all, since 2019, they've picked twice in the first round. They got Jedrick Wills and Greg Newsome. No first round pick in 19, 22, 23, or 24. So that's 4 of the last 6 drafts they will not pick in the first round. And maybe Browns fans are completely okay with that after a stretch of first round picks dating back to 2011. Let's work through them. Let's work through 2011. Phil Taylor, Trent Richardson, Brandon Weeden, Barkevius Mingo, Justin Gilbert, Johnny Manziel, Danny Shelton, Cameron Irving, Corey Coleman. Folks, there has never been a worse stretch in the history of the league of first-round picks. That's who they picked from 2011 to 2016. Now we bounce back. Myles Garrett, that was not a hard pick to make. Jabril Peppers, David Njoku, Baker Mayfield, Denzel Ward, Jedrick Wills, Greg Newsome. We've turned the tide, but that stretch, boy, tough. How do you go 1-31?
Best player in that stretch? Is Danny Shelton the best first-round pick that they used in?
Yeah, Danny Shelton or Cam Irving.
Cam Irving's not the best player that they picked.
He at least had some level of tenure in the NFL.
Danny Shelton, yeah, it's Danny Shelton.
They did flip Trent Richardson for a 1, the biggest heist in the history of the NFL.
And what'd they do with it?
Well, yeah, they turned that into either Mingo or Gilbert. I don't know which of the. Well, if it was, I don't know. It was one of these picks. People are probably yelling at me. I don't remember which one, but it was one of those first round picks that I went through. Not good.
That was 10 years ago. You get a little grace.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. People aren't very forgiving of content creators if they say something wrong or they don't align. So they like to yell at you. So yeah, I'm sure I'll get yelled at. Part of the gig.
As far as needs for this squad, probably need another linebacker. I think that's a testament to kind of the state of affairs here. Maybe some more offensive line depth. I mean, their tackles ran through last year. I know DeJuan Jones looked really promising when he played last year.
Mm-hmm.
I feel
like a lot of Browns people are talking about a lot about wide receivers as well. Doesn't stand out to me as a massive need, but
right. And I think the challenge there, and it's also the challenge with invoking tackle with DeJuan Jones and his presence is, you had a 3rd round pick in Cedric Tillman and the year prior, David Bell. You have some youth.
Right.
And now you've already added Jerry Jeudy, Amari Cooper, and Elijah Moore. Right.
And Elijah Moore, this is going to be a contract year for him, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
So, and they already paid Jeudy. They already did it.
Tight end 2?
I mean, we're talking about tight end 2. I mean, you're in a pretty good spot. You got a pretty good football team.
We're talking linebacker, swing tackle,
tight end 2.
Utility into your offensive lineman, tight end 2, wide receiver 2.5, 3. Right. They got a good roster, man.
Yeah, and they obviously
they're paying for it, but they got a good roster. So the sustainability of it's the question. But for right now, this window that they are in, it is open.
How good? Do you find it a little bit interesting that Deshaun Watson's a starter and they signed both Jameis Winston and Tyler Huntley this offseason?
I don't know, dude. They started 5 quarterbacks last year.
I mean, I get it.
I'd want to have my P's and Q's in line too. Was P's and Q's? That's not right?
Mind your P's and Q's.
Got my I's and cross my T's is really probably what I was going for. Is better than minding my P's and having my P's and Q's in line. God, I'm an idiot. Anyway, even going out and getting Nyheim Hines as the return guy, they have really gone through this roster in a lot of angles and put themselves in positions to have one of the more complete rosters in the NFL.
Deonta Foreman as well. It's your 4th running back.
Right.
Chubb coming back. Who knows what that's going to look like? But Jerome Ford, Nyheim Hines, Deonta Foreman.
And Pierre Strong can play a little bit too.
Yeah. I just remember him housing every single run that I watched him take in college. Just literally just housing it.
Howard is a lifelong Jackrabbits fan. I'm here to
Right.
tell you. It's a total baller.
Total baller.
So Cleveland, I think that's the thing that maybe you find the solace in, right? Is you have the longest wait, but your roster is among the most complete. You know what they should do? This should be the team that just drafts Peyton Wilson.
Yeah.
If Peyton Wilson slides for medicals,
Yeah.
this is the kind of team that's totally in a position to just be like, this is clearly best player available. He'd be your best linebacker.
100%. Him and JOK would be a heck of a pair.
Imagine that on passing downs.
It's good.
Behind
It's
this
good.
Jim Schwartz front.
Yeah, it's good.
Put it down. If it happens, we connected some. Maybe we weren't the first people to connect that, but it's just there's a certain alignment, right? To kind of get into a big picture draft conversation and finish the show. There's a certain kind of alignment for team and roster and talent and resume with risk that has to be aligned for it to make sense with somebody who has the depth of injury questions that Peyton Wilson has. Several shoulder injuries, several knee injuries. But the tape is unbelievable. And where does the risk worth the reward? And I think for a team like Cleveland, with what the state of the current roster is, understanding that there's probably a volatility as far as having the cash spending be at the rate that it is currently at. So you have a shorter term window anyway. So like, what's the difference within this window if the player has a 1.5 contract life window as an NFL player or not, in addition to he can be an immediate infusion that late in the second round with your first pick, that there's probably not going to be a lot of players that you'd say that for.
Yeah. I'd like that a lot. I know you I saw your board. It's pretty high up there.
Come on,
pretty
dude.
high.
He is a baller.
Low key, maybe some young defensive line, like young defensive end, young defensive tackle. But we're just talking depth and developmental upside.
Dude, it is crazy. Like Agbo Okoronkwo is your third pass rusher, and then you have a third round pick in Alex Wright, who has plenty of tools. This is the fourth guy.
Yeah, I just you think it's Zadarius Smith, like how much longer, right? So everybody bumps up, kind of get ahead of it. I mean, same thing with defense tackle, Shelby Harris, Quentin Jefferson, good veteran players, but get another guy in the pipeline. Again, these are the conversations we're having about the Browns. It's a good spot to be. Hopefully Deshaun Watson gets it going, because if he does, it's going to be a dangerous team.
If he does, it's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
It'll be a big problem. That is going to do it for us here on this episode of Locked on NFL Scouting. I'm Kyle Crabbs. He's Joe Marino. You can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. We appreciate you guys for checking out the show. Make it a great rest of your day. We are out of here.